Rose and I, and Mary Ann, and Gary, and Marty, and John. Anyway, it's so nice to see you all. Thank you so much for your support. I am so pleased to introduce my new friend, Rose Bonanza. We were talking one day at bowling, and a light bulb went on, and I said, Rose, would you please come and be our guest speaker? And she kindly said yes, she would. And she made me very happy. So please, we will welcome her. Let me just, I don't want to talk long because she has a lot to say. I hope so. Rose was born in Brooklyn, New York, and spent her early childhood years in her neighborhood convent. That's where you want to be. It was.
I'm going to tell them all.
You can embellish it. It wasn't long before. It wasn't long before everyone realized what a jewel they had in their midst. She brought the house down.
These glasses.
Turn the page. She brought the house down in her kindergarten class and knew her life would be about music from that day forward. Her voice has been described as electrifying and wisdom. We have much to hear from my friend Rose. And please give her a kind welcome.
Thank you, Meg. That was very good. Very nice. I appreciate it. And I'm very, very pleased to be here with all of you this evening. I'm going to get rid of this frog in my throat. And then if you would kindly stand, we're going to do the national anthem. So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, all the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet fly o'er the land and of the sea, and the home of Thank you very much. Just sing along. So I would like to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for being here. Let me proceed by saying to all of you, I find this not only an honor, but a pleasure to address you all this evening. We each, every one of us, have our own vision, our own path that we choose for our life. Are there missteps? You bet. But most of us pick ourselves up and carry on.
I don't have things small.
We all of us have a story to tell,
That's all I got.
each and every one. So when Maggie Sevick asked me if I would be interested in speaking to her book club at the library here in Hampstead, my first reaction was, but I'm not an author. Ah, she said, but you are published. And indeed I am. I have written hundreds of songs throughout my lifetime in their entirety. I have recorded and performed many, and all of them are copyrighted, and I am indeed published. So, I will try to tell a story of a lifetime in the short amount of time we have here this evening. Not unlike a book, my story has a beginning and a middle, and thank God, the end is yet to come. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, as if you couldn't tell. When I was a small child, my dad had malaria, and he was hospitalized for long periods of time. My mother worked in the evenings in a glove factory. She could not take care of me. So, I was put into a Polish convent called St. Stanislaus Kostka. It was there that the nuns taught me music and the piano. I had my first public appearance in my kindergarten graduation play. My first song on stage in public was "Oh Where Has My Little Dog Gone?" For which I received a standing ovation. Well, from that moment on, I knew exactly what I wanted to be and exactly what I was going to do for the rest of my life. That, of course, was music. When my dad recovered, I went to live at home again, and I was always singing and dancing all around the house, and of course I was performing for friends and family. Music became my Shangri-La, not unlike the 1933 novel, Lost Horizon, by the British author James Hilton. Music became my magical place that I could retreat to at any time, any place, and anywhere. On my 10th birthday, my dad bought me a piano, which I have to this very day. It is a Wester Brothers. I also own a Yamaha Baby Grand. So you might say I have an upstairs piano and a downstairs piano. If you fast forward to my late teens, I auditioned for and got a job as a band singer in a local club called the Ridgewood Terrace on Myrtle Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. While I was there, I made the acquaintance of an agent from Springfield, Massachusetts. His name was Billy Fiore. As it turns out, Billy Fiore was my agent until his death just a few years ago. Through Billy, I sang or danced as a belly dancer at nightclubs and supper clubs throughout the Northeast, and as it turns out, the West Coast as well. Billy secured an audition for me with the Ted Lewis show at the Desert Inn in Las Vegas. And as they say, the rest is history. Ted Lewis's famous line was, "Is everybody happy?" Well, I knew I was. By that time, I was belly dancing and singing. It was according to what position paid the most money. The Ted Lewis show was a pivotal point in my career. From there, I was able to secure positions in the Thunderbird Hotel, the Flamingo Hotel, the Hacienda Hotel, all on the Strip in Las Vegas. So very many of them are gone now. But they will never be forgotten. While working for Mr. Lewis at the Desert Inn, I was contracted to do 3 shows a night, 6 nights a week, and having Mondays off. That was when I met many, many celebrities. Some of my favorite were Dean Martin, Robert Goulet, Rowan and Martin, Eddie Fisher, Dick Shawn, Jack Carter, Shecky Green, Don Rickles, and Frank Sinatra Jr. Oh, and did I mention Dean Martin? They were, at some point or another, all working at the same time in Las Vegas as I was. They all had 2 shows a night in the big room, while I worked the lounges in the same hotels, doing 3 shows a night. So, in between their shows, the celebrities would come and watch my show. And sometimes they would do some good-natured heckling. One evening, I was belly dancing. And as a belly dancer, I worked under my stage name, Emra. It was my second show. Buddy Hackett, Jack Carter, Rowan and Martin, and some others were attending my show. As I'm dancing, I hear Buddy Hackett yelling out from the audience, "That's not Emra, that's Rosie Bonanza." Her father owns the Bonanza Airlines here in Las Vegas. That, of course, was not true. My dad did not own the Bonanza Airlines. There was an airline in Las Vegas called Bonanza Airlines, which was probably the worst airline ever to fly. And is now, to my knowledge, defunct, out of business. After that show, Buddy Hackett comes backstage to my dressing room, yelling behind the door, "Hurry up and get dressed." I'm yelling back, "What for?" He said, "I'm taking you to see my show at the Sahara." I yelled back, "But I have another show to do." He yells back, "Don't worry, I'll have you back in time for your next show." Well, by this time, I'm dressed, and I open my dressing room door. I'm dressed, but I don't have my shoes on. He grabs me by the arm, and he starts running with me down the hallway. I'm telling him, "Buddy, I need my shoes." He says to me, "What for?" I convince him I need my shoes. We go back and get my shoes. He then proceeds to put me in his limousine, and off we go to the Sahara Hotel. On the way, we stopped for a red light. Buddy says to the driver, "Why do we stop?" He said, "Mr. Hackett, it's a red light." Buddy Hackett, not one to let a good light go to waste, jumped out of the limousine, started tap dancing all around the cars on Las Vegas Boulevard. When the light turned green, he jumped back in the limousine, and we took off. Everybody else in their cars got out of their cars and gave him a standing ovation. Right there on the strip on Las Vegas Boulevard. Well, I will wager, to this day, Buddy Hackett is the only person to actually get a standing ovation on the strip, literally, right in the middle of Las Vegas Boulevard. After everyone had finished their last show, we would all meet in the lounge at the Sands Hotel. Everyone who was anyone knew to meet there. Why I was there is still to this day a mystery to me. Except for the fact that I'm an Italian girl from Brooklyn. I was much younger than all of them, and they kind of thought of me as their kid sister, or maybe even their mascot. They were always looking out for me. One night at the Sange Lounge, most of the so-called Rat Pack were there. Old comics were at the long table set up every evening for them, and they were all trying to outdo each other comically. Dean Martin got on the lounge stage and said, "Rosie Bonanza, this one's for you." And he starts singing, "Everybody wants my body sometime." After Dean Martin sang his song, they all had a good laugh on me. The waitress came over and asked for our orders. I, of course, ordered an orange juice. Robert Goulet, sitting next to me, said to me, "Oh, you're not going to order that again." Well, he said, "Let me order something for you." I said, "But you know I don't drink." He said, "Don't worry, it's like I'm malted." So I acquiesced. Well, sure enough, the waitress came back with the drink with a straw in it, and I drank it like it was a malted. I later found out it was called a zombie. In a short while, I said, "I think I have to go to the ladies' room." I excused myself. I got up from my seat, passed out cold. When I opened my eyes, I see Dean Martin and Robert Goulet hovering over me like two mother hens, looking down and saying, "Oh, how sorry I am. Oh, we didn't mean it. Oh, it was just a joke." I said, "A joke? What was the joke?" I was the joke. At about the same time, I was dating Frank Sinatra Jr. We are about the same age. He became my escort and escorted me to see a few shows on the Strip. One of them being Paul Anka. Another time, it was New Year's Eve, and Frank Jr. and I were in the lounge at the Flamingo Hotel. Robert Goulet was working in a big room at the time. Frank Jr. thinks it's going to be very funny to put a Happy New Year ribbon on me and send me out on stage, while Robert Goulet was singing one of his signature songs on a clear day you could see forever. Well, he pushes me out on stage with a Happy New Year sash around me. Frank Jr.'s behind the curtain, laughing up a storm. Needless to say, Mr. Goulet never saw the humor in all of that. He never let us live it down. It would have been so much worse if it had not been Frank Jr.'s brainstorm. I don't think Mr. Goulet was going to go there. At certain times, I would take a break from Las Vegas and take some singing gigs in New York City or wherever the paycheck was, quite frankly. One day, I received a call from Billy Fiore, my agent. He said he was in town, and would I like to join him and some other people to go to the Copacabana. I was a young girl. I jumped at it. While at the Copa, there was a horseshoe-shaped table with some men sitting around. Billy takes the opportunity to introduce me to them as they were friends of his, one being Jack Palance. As I was being introduced to all the men, all of them very, very polite, the one that stood out in my very young mind at that time was Jack Palance, simply because he was the only gentleman there who, when being introduced to me, stood up. This was the beginning of a lifelong friendship between myself and Mr. Palance. A few years later, I'm working in Washington, D.C. I get a phone call at the club. I answer the phone, and the voice on the other end said, "Hi, this is Jack Palance." And I said, "Yes, and this is the Queen of England." And I hung up the phone. A short time later, the phone rings for me again. I answer, and the voice says, "Please don't hang up. I'm Jack Palance." Of course, I made my apologies, and he proceeded to ask me if I were free on a certain day to do a show with him and Dorothy L'Amour at the Baltimore Hotel in Baltimore for the Boys and Girls Club. Of course, I said I could. I asked him, could I bring some of the other kids on my show with me to help out? And he said, sure. So I brought the kids and we all did the show. Some years later, I was working at the Hacienda Hotel in Bakersfield, California. I came in one evening and go to my dressing room and could hardly get into the dressing room. It was filled with flowers. It turns out Jack Palance had a cattle ranch in Bakersfield, California, and he saw my name on the marquee outside of the hotel. He brought at least a dozen of his cattle ranch friends with him to see my show. He said to me, one good turn deserves another. Needless to say, that was a memorable evening. Over the course of a few years, I played singing and dancing all over the United States of America. I did some USO shows, going to entertain our troops at Air Force bases in Sandestrom and Thule in Greenland, and Goose Bay in Labrador, going back and forth, crossing the country, back home playing all the beautiful clubs and supper clubs we had at that time. I played many of the amazing supper clubs of the day in New York City, including Dangerfield's, the Living Room, Upstairs at the Downstairs, and many in Boston. And of course, the wonderful hotels in the Catskill Mountains, which at the time we called the Jewish and Italian Mountains. Just a few years ago, my husband and I were at a restaurant in Plantation, Florida, owned by a dear friend of ours named Dick Cammy. The restaurant was called Grumpy Dick's. Dick was one of the original Peppermint Lounge owners in New York City in the 1960s. He came over to me and said, "An old friend of yours wants to say hello." He walked me over to the table with a number of people, and the older gentleman said to me, "Hello, Rosie Bonanza." It was Shecky Green. I could not believe this man recognized me after all these years. Needless to say, we had a lovely, lovely evening catching up on old times. So, as I said, I have written hundreds of songs in their entirety. One of my very first musical adventures into writing music was a song I wrote called "The High-Ho Silver Twist." You never heard of it? And it's probably a good thing. But in a short while, I would like you to listen to a couple that I did write and perform and publish. But first, I am thankful first of all to God for the talent He has entrusted in me. Thankful to my husband Michael for being my biggest fan. Thankful for my wonderful staff, because this couldn't happen without them. Thankful for all the wonderful people I have met over the years and through my lifetime. Thankful for the good and the not so good. For I believe you must experience both sides in order to appreciate the blessings. I'm thankful, humbled, and proud to be able to be a part of this evening. I could go on for hours. I could go on and tell you about the concert tours, the club dates, and the wonderful memories. I'm thankful for this opportunity you have given me this evening to address all of you and allowing me to share a part of my life and your evening with all of you. I think now is the perfect time for some music and questions, which I will answer to the best of my ability. We're supposed to have it, there it is. If you have any questions, you could line up and get on the microphone so everyone can hear your questions, and I will be very, very happy to answer them for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you one more time. It's been my pleasure. My very, very pleasure. Thank you so very much. I would like to address any questions you might have at the moment. No questions? Come right up.
At what point did you decide that you wanted to retire and give up all of this lifestyle that you had?
I have not retired. I'm still standing. It's the grace of God that I'm still standing. No, I have no intention of retiring. I'm hoping and expecting to drop dead on stage.
I have a question. For the Dean Martin show, what did he really have in that coffee cup?
I know a lot of people don't believe it, but Dean Martin was not an alcoholic.
I don't believe it.
No. He did have coffee, and he did every once in a while put a little bourbon in there. This was his shtick. You know, making believe he was a little tipsy all the time. Not true. Not true. He was the first one to go to bed at night, I'll tell you that. Everybody went out to party, and he was long gone to dreamland. Dean Martin was my very, very favorite person that I met in the business besides Mr. Plants. We have more questions.
I know jazz is your favorite, but I also know you're great at country.
Yep.
What made you change?
I didn't change. I do almost everything. I do gospel, I do country, I do jazz, I sing opera. I'm a soprano voice. So I can sing. I sing the Ave Maria in churches at weddings. My voice goes from low to high. And I thank God for that, because there are too many people that just can't do that. No, but I do country. I love country. I haven't done it in a long time. I write country music. I have a few country songs out, but I prefer jazz. Jazz is my forte.
You're not retired yet. Can we see you perform around here anywhere? Perform anywhere in particular?
Well, there was a time you could see me perform in Wilmington. I worked at Thallian Hall at least once a year, every year for many years. I did a benefit every year at Thallian Hall for the cystic fibrosis. Every year on Valentine's Day, which happens to be my husband and our anniversary. So I did do a lot of work. There used to be a lot of clubs for me to work at here in Wilmington. But unfortunately, we don't have those clubs anymore. Mostly it's for the college kids and that kind of thing, and that's just not my thing. But I go on the road and I work. I'll be going to Florida in December, and I work a lot in Florida. So, all over Florida. Marcia.
I would like to know who is one of your favorite entertainers of today.
Today's entertainer, my very favorite. Well, I have to put that in different categories because entertaining covers a lot. There are vocalists, there are comics.
Vocalist.
Who's my favorite vocalist? Today's vocalist. Oh my goodness, that's really hard for me to say.
You didn't want me to give you an easy question, did you?
No, but I thought you were going to ask me if Dean Martin were alive, She would be right there, wherever he is. She would be following him around. I can't say, I have so many that I really truly, Tony Bennett is one. I think he's got a marvelous, marvelous voice.
What do you think of him and Dada?
I think that's a great album. Have you heard that? A fantastic album. Lady Gaga is fantastic. My God, I love the ones from yesteryear. Ella Fitzgerald, you know. Those are my favorite. It's hard to get away from that. Sure, Janet.
I have two questions. One, how did you learn to sing in so many different languages? And number two, tell us what it felt like to be around all these famous people as a young girl.
Well, okay, I did not touch on that this evening, but I do sing in 10 different languages. I have an album out that's called Volare, and there are 9 languages on that. With each and every song I sing, like La Vie en Rose, I sing it in French and English. If I do an Italian song, I sing it in Italian and English, or a Spanish song, it's Spanish and English. I let you know what the music is about. I don't just sing it in a strange language and then you have to guess what I'm saying. So, and I don't know why or how, or even why God gifted me with the language, but I can only say that Italian was spoken in my household. And when I was a young girl, I was dating a Greek boy, and that's where I learned to speak Greek. So between him and the Italian, I think it was so simple just to pick up the Romance languages, the Latin, the French, the Spanish, all of those were Romance languages. And from there I went to German and Turkish. I even sing in Afrikaans. So I don't know why or how, but it just comes to me. As far as being around all the celebrities, if I knew then what I know now, that's all I can tell you. I had no clue then they were who they were. I have pictures of parties that I've been at with Sinatra Jr., who today won't even say hello to me. He's way up there for me. but I have pictures to prove that. So, yes, ma'am.
Rose, when you were a little girl, after 5 years old, and you were finding your voice, did you develop your own voice, or did you pattern who you became after anybody in particular? Did you mimic, or did you find your own voice?
No, thank you for the question. That's a very good one. No, the nuns really didn't know what to make of me or do with me. I was the only child in the convent. It wasn't for children. They had no idea. And when I would sing opera, they were thrilled to death. And then when I would try to do jazz, they were very unhappy. They wanted the opera. At that age, I didn't even know what jazz was. So they had me playing Italian operas on the piano, and then they were thrilled to death. And then I'd go home and play something else after I left the convent. And they weren't happy when I came back. So, and as far as mimicking someone, no, I don't think so. Of course, listening to Carmen McRae and Ella Fitzgerald and those wonderful, beautiful singers of yesteryear had to have some kind of influence on my style. You can pick up and you can hear or listen to Frank Sinatra, even Perry Como. They all had their own style, their own feeling for the lyric and the music. When you sing jazz, it's a whole different ballgame. Jazz, you bend the note when you sing. Music is written note for note. I don't know how many musicians we have in the audience today, but most musicians would follow the song as it is written, note for note for note, and one note follows another note. Well, as a jazz singer, I follow each note, note for note, but I bend them. I bend them to suit me, my style, my feeling. And when I sing the song, I may sing the same song 1,000 times. It's never coming out the same way. It's my feeling for that evening. It's my feeling for that word at that moment. And that's the way a jazz vocalist sings. And that's the way I sing. Do we have any more questions? Here she comes, Maggie.
I want to talk about comedians.
Comedians.
Yes. Compared to today, I feel we're missing out of those old
For sure.
comedians who just meant so much to me as I was growing up. But I always thought that Shecky Green was probably the whole group of comedians, one of the best.
Oh, yes.
Am I right about that? Or who stands out in your memory?
Don Rickles. Don Rickles, he's my dear friend to this very day, and he remembers Rosie Bonanza. That's another one.
Yeah.
But thank God he's still with us, and he's still performing.
And how does he
Don-
feel about the comedians today?
How does Don Rickles has to speak for Don Rickles. I can only speak for myself. Shecky Green floored me when he recognized me simply because I am right now God's blonde. When I was 20, my hair was jet dark black. So, and I had this big ponytail. I was a kid. I just had this long ponytail down to here. And that's the way I performed, and that's the way I got on stage. So, for Shecky Green, and Shecky Green was lit from the minute he woke up till the minute he went to bed at night. I wish I had $1 every time Shecky Green drove his car into the fountains at Caesar's Palace. On Wednesday, Boulevard, he's driving along, boom, his car's in the fountain. So, how, in God's name, just a couple of years ago, my husband and I sitting there at Grumpy Dick's, he recognized me from across the room, looking like I look today. So, it's amazing.
Rose, what about Tony Fields?
Well, you know, I came in just before she passed away. She was a marvelous entertainer. Actually, she worked at the Thunderbird Hotel, one of the hotels that I worked at. And she got very sick. I believe it was cancer in her leg. And I think that was her, demise. May she rest in peace. Tell you the truth, when I got to Las Vegas, I was too young to see her show. she was off color, and I couldn't even walk through the casino on my own without getting an escort from the service people to escort me to because you weren't allowed to be in the casino unless you were 21 at that time. Now it's a different ball game.
I remember one of the funniest snippets she did was about dancing. Do you remember that?
No.
It was one of the funniest things I remember that I ever heard.
So why don't you tell us?
I'm a frustrated stand-up comic.
But you wouldn't be a stand-up comic, you'd be talking about your favorite pantyhose girl. Tell us, Tony Fields pantyhose. Maybe we'll do it in private and do another one.
Okay, Miss Rose, you feel alive. Would you tell us how you learned to
Dance. That's another thing. I don't know. I happen to be a very, very prolific dancer. I'm a dancer. I can dance. I can do all the Latin dances. I can salsa. I just dance. Don't mind. Hey, I'm a girl from Brooklyn. There's not much we can't do. At a very early age, I was singing and dancing all around the house. When my agent, Billy Fiore, did not have a job for me as a vocalist, he said, "Too bad you're not a dancer." I said, "I don't take my clothes off." He said, "No, not that kind of dancer." He said, at that time we had a lot of strip clubs, if you remember. He said, "You could belly dance." You know, and there I went. But I said, "How do you do? What do I have to do? Show me the music." And boom, not only did I belly dance, I taught girls from Greece and from Turkey and from Syria how to do their own dance. And that's where I learned the Turkish. I learned, we boarded, nobody had money in those days. The Turkish girl taught me to sing Turkish, and I taught her how to belly dance. And that's the way it went. I don't know why. I'm a very good dancer. And my dad was a terrific dancer. My dad and I used to get on the dance floor and do the jitterbug and the lindy and all kinds of wonderful dances from when I was tiny and little. So maybe it was his genes, I'm not sure. But musically, I thank God I have that talent.
So how did you find your way to the ocean?
Oh, that's another story. Okay. My husband, Michael, right there, has a business, and it was on Long Island, New York. And things on Long Island, the taxes started going up. Things were pretty bad. He owned a piece of property that he wanted to move the business to on Long Island, and because of certain politicians and certain things going on at that time, it was not a possibility. So he said, "The heck with it," and for years, a number of years, he looked around for a special place to move the whole company to. And even Sarasota, Florida, we thought of that. He thought of many places. Many governors called him and asked him, would he please come and take a look at their place. People were willing to help us move, give us the property to move the company, just to have us in their state or their town. And so he got invited by the governor of North Carolina. What was his name, Michael? Jim Hunt. At the time was Jim Hunt, to come and look at Wilmington, North Carolina. And the business is now in Berghoff. And again, the rest is history. We're here almost 23 years. Many of our employees came with us. Families came and moved with us. Our vice president came from Long Island with the company. He started out in the mail room. Didn't he start in production? And now he's our vice president. So we have people with the company for many years, but with some of them over 30 years. And the company just turned 46. So any more questions?
What's the company?
WR Racing Company. We make disposable items for medical, dental, beauty, anybody that needs uses disposables. We make that product for them. Pets, pet uses most the tattoo. We sell Sally Beauty. many different avenues, people that use our products. We also private label, so you wouldn't recognize the company name because we put their name on the box. Any other questions? No? Everybody stand up. Go right ahead.
When are you gonna sing for us?
That's what the CDs are for. If we had musicians here, I would be able to sing for you. But to sing everything a cappella, I don't think that's going to happen. I would love to, though. Maybe if I can find some musicians here in Wilmington, we'll do a concert here one time. And then you're all invited back. How's that? Anything else? Anybody else? Well, let me say it was a pleasure this evening. I'm sorry, and we all look lovely, don't we? Everybody got a little interest up in there like that. Thank you once more. Thank you again. I'm so pleased to be here with you this evening. Yeah, I have some albums here and some 8x10s. If you're interested in those, you're welcome to come up and look, and I'll be happy to sell some to you if that's what you're interested in. Thank you again.